Hello everybody, welcome to me reading Microchip Chapter 10 and 11. Chapter 10. When they arrived at Helium Mountain, the inevitable gateway to TSI, they soon realized everything was easier said than done. It was a constantly rising island. It was made of helium and partially neon, and the higher up it went, the scarier it was. But with every bit, they were also moving closer to TSI. However, sluggishly. The mountain itself was somewhat lazy and moved about a millimeter every second. We need a reasonable way to get in without falling to our death, said Quantum, petrified. When all seemed lost, Septo pulled out the forgotten one-up from his pocket. Quantum, however, began to ponder the probability of this situation because he didn't think the octopus would have pockets in the first place. "Hey, look, it's the one-up that Andy gave us back in Chapter 7, exclaimed Septo. Everyone forgot about the one-up until this moment. Then Andy teleported to them and said, "So, you remember my one-up, eh? It's the time to use it now, before I steal it from you and take it back to Phone Island," said Andy, baffling Quantum and Septo. Rover had no idea what was going on because he was still a dog. Rover tried to jump on Andy. Rover succeeded, and Andy was proud. "Well done! You succeeded at my minuscule trap. Now you can use the one-up to speed up the mountain and make it go a mile a second." So the robots grabbed the one-up and went into the mountains. Before they left, they heard a distant voice. "Subscribe to Stuffed Animal Mania and have a good time." The robots went inside and soon discovered that the mountain's interior was strange indeed. It was mostly covered in scientific equations that probably even Einstein, germanium, nickel, uranium, sulfur, couldn't understand. But there were a various of equations, including, but not to be limited, microscopes, samples of chemicals, lab coats lying on the floor. It looked like scientists lived here. Just then, a scientist who bared a striking resemblance to Albert Einstein walked in and wondered aloud what strange robots were doing in his lab. Later, the bots found out he was Albert Einstein. When Einstein was alive, he invented a time machine and went into it. And here he was. Chapter 11. Artificial Essence. Now that Einstein was here, he caused extreme perplexity of the bots. They wondered what a 20th century scientist was going to do in the 20th century. Well, he could have lived through both, but still, he died in 1955. How could he be here in 2021? They all decided to take a rocket up to TSI, and they took Einstein with them. Why are you trying to fly?" asked Einstein, using his poetic element of astonish and also speaking in a somewhat abnormal scientific language a little bit after that, saying something like he had never heard of twin turbine engines and things like that. Quantum had an idea what he was talking about, but he responded as if he did. E equals MC squared. Blah, 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 vector creations, blah, 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 calculus, blah, blah, blah. They had no idea what he was talking about, but it was cool to encounter Einstein anyway. When they were getting near TSI, Einstein felt a little woozy, but he got over it. "Well, I tried to invent the time machine, but I failed," which you guys probably know by now. They didn't, but they did. "I'm confused. I mean, how did I even get here? One minute I'm in heaven splitting atoms, the next I'm back on Earth. Wait, am I a ghost?" asked Einstein in bewilderment. His face was starting to get pale. Septo shook his head no, and Einstein started to cool his jets metamorphically. Right that moment, the ship's fuel started to run out. Following that, it turned in a rotating cube that jumped. Other game modes include a plane, a UFO, a ball that could switch gravity at will, a wave with sharp turns, a robot who could jump as high as he wanted, and a spider who switched gravity very quickly at will. Rover turned on the radio and it was playing Geometry Dash music from Artificial Ascent. When they went into the virtual reality and they were actually inside of Geometry Dash. Luckily, Einstein was a really, however, it seemed unlikely that someone could beat Artificial Ascent, one of the hardest levels in the game, on their first try. Maybe when your life is on the way through Artificial Ascent. When they got to the TSI, they saw two robots. One didn't look friendly, the other one more like an innocent bystander. Thank you for listening. Tune in for more.